Hey everyone, back with another episode of Sit Down here. I'm your host Ernest, and we got Jay Miner, and today we have very special guests. We have 1993 Heisman Trophy winner for FSU. He also played basketball at FSU and went on to be a first round pick in the NBA. We have Mr. Charlie Ward joining the show. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me on the sit down.
Of
Yes,
course,
sir.
definitely big time special guest. When Ern put this into play, when we saw the news that you took the job at FAMU, was definitely excited. So just in terms of everything, you're a legend in the sports community, definitely legend in Tallahassee. Just want to get your thoughts, and everyone wants to know what made you decide to go to Florida State University out of high school.
Um, there are quite a couple of factors. One was Coach Bowden.
Mm,
When it was started going through the process, he had to be convinced that I was the right guy
mm,
to play in his system. But grateful that he gave me an opportunity. But he was a Christian. Man, my parents are believers as well, and they raised us that way. And so, one of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted to play multiple sports. I wanted to play basketball and football. And here he had allowed Brad Johnson to do that.
hmm
And so that gave me an opportunity to know that it had been done, and he was willing to do it. And so that was one major factor. And then the other factor was, it's closer to home as well, from Thomasville. So it wasn't that far from my parents, but more importantly, also for the people that supported me all my life. I was born and raised in Thomasville, so this was it, that gave me an opportunity to be able to be closer to home.
Yeah, that's right around the way, man. That's right
Yes.
around the way. But sure. So, getting into your time at FSU, was there a point in time, you was playing both sports that you thought that maybe I shouldn't be playing both sports and actually I should just pick one?
No. I was dead set. I mean, we've all have things that we're dead set on,
hmm
and
mhm.
there's nothing that's going to deter us from doing it, even though it may lead to a dead end. But we're just going to make sure it happens. But for me, I was always going to play two sports, and I wasn't going to jeopardize one career for another, but more importantly, I wasn't going to jeopardize the moment. You only have one time in college, and when you have the opportunity to enjoy it, I was going to enjoy every aspect of it. And so I never thought about giving up basketball. That was the main thing. I've never thought about giving up basketball just to pursue football. And I was grateful that I had people around me that was willing to support my goals and dreams, which was to uh, continue to play basketball and football, and then allow God to open up doors in the future. And so, the crazy part about it was, I was able to do both and graduate. So it took a lot of people
A lot of help.
to make to
Yeah.
make that to make that that goal a reality. And I was grateful for my professors and the academic support that we were able to get, and the coaches, working with me to make sure to give them this opportunity. So, but never thought that I would give up one sport for the other, just because I enjoyed playing sports.
Right. And I know you probably playing your whole life, playing multiple sports at a time. And I feel like a lot of guys that we hear about who go play two sports in college, either football and baseball, football and basketball, we hear about guys being pretty great in one sport and not as good in the other. But you had a chance when you were elite in both sports, winning the Heisman Trophy in football and going first round in the NBA. Like in terms of that, what do you feel your personal preference were you better at? Were you better at one sport than the other? Or did you enjoy one sport more than the other? Or was it just a football season, basketball season?
Yeah. So growing up, I God had blessed me with a great gift, which was hand-eye coordination.
Mm-hmm.
And it started at a very early age. My parents recognized it, and they really didn't allow me to compete in a competitive setting until around sixth grade, because
Wow.
they didn't want me to burn out early on playing, a lot of sports, organized sports, I should say. And so, of course, I played baseball, Little League baseball, but that was really the only sport that I played that was organized at the time. And then it went from that to flag to tackle, and then middle school hit. And so I just enjoyed, you know, playing sports. And I didn't have one sport that I enjoyed more than the other. I just enjoyed the competition and just throughout my high school years, um, I would have played three sports each year if I could, but I was injured a couple of years early on, so I wasn't able to play in the fall. I mean, I'm sorry, in the winter, in the spring, for my freshman and sophomore years. But I just enjoy sports. So playing multiple sports was something that I love to do. And I didn't have a favorite.
Nice.
Okay, so let's talk about your time on the gridiron, man. He's a quarterback star, superstar QB, man. He played a lot of talent around. Was on a lot of times on your team. I'm sure you played a lot of talent as well. So speak about the maybe the player or team that gave you the most trouble when he was playing while he was playing football.
Um, well, the team that really was a nemesis was Nebraska. I mean,
Mhm.
this my senior year in the championship game. They were really the only team that put a stomp into what we were doing, and kind of slowed us down in a lot of ways. And so, they had a very good game plan. One, they were going to make it extremely tough on me physically, and also, of course, when you hit someone consistently, their mental approach starts to wane a little bit.
Mm.
Um, but that wasn't my issue. My issue was, we just weren't able to execute at a high level. But we did bring our best out when we needed it, which was our last drive. But as I've always said, sports is all about, you know, individuals playing their best when they're needed, but also teammates rallying around other teammates to help them be successful. And so I was blessed to be able to have a very good defense the years that I played,
Definitely.
and they gave us opportunities to win games.
Mhm.
And so this was no different, even though it was a tough game offensively for us. But our defense gave us a chance in the end to be able to win it. And so if you're talking about one of the toughest teams, Nebraska would be that team.
Uh, and then just wrapping up your college career in football and in basketball, getting ready for the professional. What was that thought process like? Because in doing research, you see a bunch of different stories online, but hearing it from the source himself, what was that thought process and ultimately deciding that basketball was going to be your journey? Because at the end of the day, you win the Heisman Trophy in football. That's the best college football player. So everyone would
Yeah,
obviously assume football would be your route. But what ultimately led to basketball as your choice?
Yeah. Like I shared earlier, I was enjoying the moment. And one
Wow.
of the things that I was going to do and willing to do was sacrifice my NFL career to be able to be a senior leader on my basketball team. Now that year, people were probably like, "Man, you crazy?" Because we didn't even make the tournament, and we were only 500 that year. So
Wow.
it wasn't a really solid team, especially the teams that I had been on. But that wasn't my issue. My issue was I wanted to be a senior leader. I'd played 3 years, and I wanted to continue to play. And also, I wanted to give myself an option because we just saw what happened to Shadur Sanders
hmm
when he was at the begging mercy of the NFL and
Mm.
the people who are doing the choosing. I was in that very same situation, and if football was my only option, then I would have probably gotten drafted in the fifth round because that's when I got a call from the Kansas City Chiefs and asked if I got drafted, if they drafted me, would I uh, come to camp. And I told them that I couldn't guarantee them that I would come to camp because, I was going to continue to pursue basketball to see if I could become a first round pick. And that's the reason why I went undrafted during that time. And then they knew that I wasn't 100% committed to the NFL process because I didn't quit basketball my senior year. So when it came down to it, they made a choice, and plus they answered God's prayer for me, which was to close the door, open the door,
Wow.
and they really closed the door for me, and I didn't really have to choose between which sport I was going to um, pursue. But the crazy part about all this and seeing God through it all was when the draft happened, the NFL draft happened. I had no clue that I would be a first round pick in the NBA. But what I did know was I was going to do everything in my power to give myself an opportunity to be a first round pick. And that's what I did.
Wow.
I got a question.
That's,
So how did that work really? So like can you talk about the Chiefs called you. So did you declare for the draft and they just hit you like after like the draft had passed for like that undrafted free agent or like how did that work out?
No, it was during the draft. It was the fifth
Oh.
round. Yeah, they called me at that time. I don't know how many days it was, but it was a fifth round. It was a Monday. I think it
Mhm.
was a Monday when they called, and I was actually asleep when they called. It was early, and so they asked me if I would, if they drafted me in the fifth round, and at the time it was behind Joe Montana. It would have been behind Joe Montana, which is one of my heroes.
Yeah.
And I would have been the next guy in line. So I could have been Patrick Mahomes for Patrick Mahomes. But
right.
nonetheless, God had a different plan for me. But I just wanted to be honest with them that I was going to, because I had mentioned earlier, I really doubled down for the draft. I told them that if I wasn't drafted in the first round, then I would definitely be considering my other options. And so that, of course, made it double down that I wasn't 100% committed from the jump. And
Hmm.
then I doubled down and said if I didn't get drafted in the first round, then I would be considering my other options as well. And so, to this day, I have people, you know, applauding me for my boldness, because I really wasn't worried about my future in a sense,
Hmm.
because it was definitely in God's hands through this whole process, and I was just doing what I felt was best and most enjoyable, and my heart was in the right place.
uh, and then you ultimately end up having one of your dreams come true, being a first round pick in the NBA, getting drafted to the New York Knicks. Do you remember and can you just talk a little bit about that moment when you finally hear your name called in the NBA draft?
Yes, both drafts I had a party at the house,
Hmm.
and I knew my name wasn't going to call in the NFL draft during the first round. And so still had the party. And then the same thing happened, for the NBA draft. And when I got a call from, Ernie Grunfeld, and he was a GM at the time in New York Knicks, I was elated and excited about the opportunity to be able to play in New York. But the crazy part about it was, and this is another God story, God moment. When I went to the Heisman, of course, is in New York.
Hmm.
Um, and when we were leaving New York, one of the things I said when we were leaving New York was, "Man, I would never be able to live in New York." So,
Hey, God had
so
another plan for you, huh?
yeah, so that was definitely another God moment where I hadn't planned on being in New York. I talked to or worked out, and Orlando was planning on drafting me.
Mm.
Um, but they were a few picks behind or pick behind. And so I ended up, you know, in New York. And one of my lifetime friends now, Monty Williams, was drafted 2 picks before me.
That's
And so it was just, just a great moment. And then going to New York, where I said that I would never want to live, and ended up living there almost 10 years. So go figure.
that's funny how that works out, man. It sounded like you was almost part of that Penny Shack team down in Orlando, man.
Yeah, yeah. I did work out against Penny
Uh-huh.
during my pre-draft workout, and that was one of the people that they had me working out against. And
And
so
how'd that go?
I went well. I mean, my whole deal doing that whole pre-draft process was I just wanted to play even to these guys who have been playing basketball all their lives. And
Hmm.
so
Mm.
I was able to accomplish that feat every place I went to work out. I played even. Like they weren't beating me down. I wasn't beating them down, but they saw my competitive spirit and I held my own.
Yeah, just want to show that you are on the same level as all them guys who do basketball full time, 100%.
Correct.
Got you. But just how was that? Because I know you mentioned that you could never live in New York. How was that going from being a guy from Thomasville and then going from Tallahassee and then now you're in a big city like New York? Like, how was that culturally wise? Because like growing up in small towns, then now you're in the biggest city, biggest sports market. Like, how was that for you?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a culture shock, but the great thing about it was, the Knicks organization, they made sure that we had everything we needed. And then once I got there, I was able to get a publicist who helped me navigate the city. Um, Found a friend who ran a limousine company, so he was
Oh,
taking me different places
that's
and
what's
showing
up.
me
Mm-hmm.
showing me where things were, and then where we were practicing was in the suburbs of New York, Westchester County, and so that made it a little bit smaller than being in the city.
Right.
Hmm.
So being in that area really was like being home and being in Tallahassee, so it wasn't that big. But the great part about it was, of course, being in New York, you have access to a lot of things at your disposal. And so I wasn't a big party guy, but being able to go to premieres and different events
Wow.
that you, as a Nick, you get invited to and be a part of, and then just community outreach things that they have you involved with. It kind of makes it smaller than just being in the city the whole time, where there's a lot of hustle and bustle.
Exactly.
And so I was able to navigate my way through those waters. Um, but you had to learn how to drive, because if
Yeah.
you're not aggressive,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be sitting on the sideline the whole time, and you'll be in traffic all the time. And so I had to learn how to be aggressive, blow my horn, all those things. And I learned that you can't speak to everyone because they won't speak back, because everyone's in kind of in their own little world, walking
For
and
sure.
doing whatever. And then you see, people on the street. They're just, and you may see anything.
You
And
really
so
might
it's
see
just,
anything in New York. I
yeah,
agree with that. I agree.
yeah. So it was just, just breaking it down. And then you go and play in the world most famous arena, which is Madison Square Garden. And you navigate your way through that as well. The more you're there, the
You
more
got
you start
Spike
to
Lee,
navigate.
man.
And
Yeah, I bet you was real cool with Spike Lee, huh?
again, yeah, I mean, Spike actually was trying to recruit me to be one of his clients because he was in the agent business. So I met Spike my senior year.
That's really cool, man. So yeah, talk about your NBA career. What would you say like your biggest game that you had in your career, and walk us through that?
Biggest game?
Like it could be career high or a game you made like a really big play in the game.
Favorite
Well,
moment?
I had some really good games. Not a lot, but some really good ones. But one, memory that I had that was very, of course, very because I'm going to tell you the story. It was our oldest son. It was his first official game that he attended, and it was on Mother's Day.
Mm.
He had just been born that February, and we were playing the Miami Heat in the playoffs. And it was a close game, and I ended up making 9 points, scoring 9 points in the fourth quarter to help us win the game. And of course, it was very memorable because one, Caleb was there, his first game, Mother's Day, and the coach on the other side was Pat Riley, and Coach Riley was my rookie coach. And he didn't give me an opportunity to play, which you know I shouldn't have played anyway. But in my mind, I was holding it against him that I should have been playing. And every time I got a chance to play against him, I wanted to prove to him that I should have been playing. But of course, I shouldn't have been playing because I was a rookie and I had veteran guys in front of me like Derek Harper,
Hmm.
Doc Rivers, Greg Anthony. And so I wasn't playing regardless of if I was great or not.
Man, ain't
I
none of
wasn't
that matter.
playing
You wanted to play. You wanted to play. I feel that.
exactly.
I
I
feel
wanted to
that.
play.
During that time period, who would you say the best player you had to face was?
During that time, there's Tim Hardaway. He was on the back end of his career. Stephon Marbury, Allen Iverson,
Ooh,
Mark Jackson. Those were like the East Coast
yep,
guys that I had to work through. And then, of course, West Coast was John Stockton. I'm sorry, I had to guard. My job was to guard Steve Kerr, B.J. Armstrong when we played Chicago. Travis Best was a matchup for me as well when we played Indiana. And so it's just you name those guys, and people like, well, okay, I understand, but
mm,
that was my role. Those are the guys I had to compete against, but I enjoyed it.
yep.
They,
Competition.
they didn't put you up on Kobe?
No, that wasn't my matchup. And back then we didn't do a lot of switching.
Yep. He
Oh
said, "I
man.
stick with the PGs, huh?"
Yes, most times I was with guard and point guards, and the game was a little bit different
Hmm.
than you see today. Today is more about getting matchups to go one on one.
Yep.
Hmm.
Back then, we ran more sets to get shots and make plays for individuals.
Got you.
Definitely. Definitely a lot different, man. But I want to go back to, your times of playing football and when the year you won the Heisman. So like that year, going into that year, was there a moment be yeah, I had this is my Heisman moment, I got that on lock? Or do you I had the Heisman. I guess that's cool.
I'll say this. I think the as everyone has a Heisman moment, as they say.
Hmm.
Mine would probably be against Florida.
Mm,
My senior year, that year, we were playing them in the swamp, and it was the game sealing touchdown that I threw to Warwick. Done. I had a good game that day, but Florida made a comeback late in the game to close it to like 5 or 6 points.
Hmm.
And we needed a drive to seal the game. It was like little over a minute and some change, or so, and or probably a little bit. Yeah, it was like 2 or 3 minutes left, and so that helped seal the game. The pass that I made to Warwick, and he ran it for like 75 yards or so.
nice.
Was that game at Doak or was it Gainesville?
I was in Gainesville.
Yep.
They had a 23 home game winning streak
Snapped it, huh?
that we snapped. Yes,
Got
we
you.
loved it.
Nice, nice. And then I know just before we get ready to wrap up now, just talking about your current role that you accepted, head coach at FAMU basketball. What was that moment that you knew that post career that coaching was going to be something that you were interested in? Because I know you're point guard, quarterback. I feel like that's a smooth transition. But like, when did you know that coaching was going to be something long term for you?
Well, I've been blessed to have a lot of people in my life. But one guy that was like my lifeline in the NBA was Coach Jeff Van Gundy.
Wow.
And so when I came into the league, he was my skill development coach. When I got my first opportunity to be in the rotation, he was the one that made it happen. And then at the end of my career, he brought me to Houston to be one of the veteran leaders on the team. And I only played 1 year before I got injured. And once I got injured, I was trying to figure out like what I was going to do next. Um, and and so he opened the door up for me to see if coaching was something that I wanted to do. And that gave me a good transition to see if coaching was something I wanted to do. And so he allowed me to be on the staff as mainly kind of like an intern. Um, and so he allowed me to coach some of the younger guys that were coming in. So I developed uh, skill development plans for them, watched film, was there for them. And so that kind of got my foot in the door and understanding what coaching was about. Because at one point I thought that I wouldn't be a good coach, but I realized that I had been coached a lot on the things that I'd been able to do.
Hmm.
So being able to understand and give back for what I'd learned from others and through my experiences. So I had a good niche and fit with the younger guys.
Hmm.
The veteran guys, I really didn't vibe with because they were so close in age with me,
Mm.
in a sense, and I had just finished playing. And so I had a good niche with the younger guys. And so I was with the Rockets for 2 years. And once I got out of, I wanted to have a little bit more of a flexible schedule
Mm.
because I wanted to spend more time with the family.
Hmm.
And so I got into coaching at the high school level and started out in football for coach there, coached football for like 9 years. And then opportunity opened up for me to coach basketball after coaching football for 9 years.
Uh,
And just like the FAMU job, I wasn't looking for a basketball job. It just happened. And same thing happened here at FAMU. I was not looking for a college job. And AD Suggs, called first my wife because they're friends. And kind of butterhurt up for it. And then my wife sent me a message saying, "Be open-minded and listen to what she has to say." And so I was, that because if it was going to work or happen, my wife had Tanja had to be in full support because I knew it was going to change a lot of things that she wanted to do.
yeah.
And so I understood that. I had made that mistake before. I wasn't going to make it again.
Yeah.
And so so once she gave her full support on it, it was really the only job that I was willing to take, mainly because, we're putting our roots here in Tallahassee.
Hmm.
We were building a Champions Ranch. And, it's a great opportunity to help continue to build the brand of FAMU, especially the men's basketball. And all the jobs that I've taken have been very similar, high school wise. They've had great brands, and whatever sport I've been in, they've kind of been struggling.
Hmm.
And some, just being able to just bring it to being respectable. And some been able to elevate to where we were in we were in the running for a championship every year, at Florida High. And so, you know, I don't know where this is going to land, but I do know that we're going to work to make sure that we improve and enhance what we already have.
Mhm.
So when the time does come for me to move on to something different, or they let me go for whatever reason, I want to make sure that I've enhanced the opportunities for the young men that will be coming to play in our program.
That's what it's all about.
So this is my last question for you, Mr. Ward. So, obviously, you talk about the basketball team. They had a pretty decent foundation, one of the most games they've had since '08. So this is the best team I've seen since my time in Tallahassee. So I know I can only expect what you're gonna do for the program. But yes, I was gonna ask like why, like you kind of touched on it, but I want you to really like explain it. So why now for FAMU? Because you could have easily like it turned it down and kept doing the high school route, kept doing it because it seemed like you like molding and coaching young men. But why now to make the jump to college?
Well, there have been a couple of people that prophesied that I was going to be moving on after last year,
Hmm.
um, and I didn't see it, and maybe they saw it before I saw it, and I had already kind of made up in my mind that next year is going to be my last year
Hmm.
at Florida High because we were going to be focusing really on the Champions Ranch, and so that was going to be my transitional plan. But I wanted to also try to find a way that I can continue to do what I was doing as far as coaching young men, because I just enjoyed the preparation. I enjoyed, being a part of the team bonding and the team aspect. And I wasn't sure if I was cut for administration work,
Mhm.
but then this opportunity just comes out of nowhere. And about 4 years ago, one of the jobs when I was thinking about if I would ever coach in college, one of the jobs I said that I think I could do would be FAMU.
Wow.
Um, just because I think it's a good fit for me,
Hmm.
because I like I like the makeup, the mindset behind it. There's politics and everything. I'm not going to be naive to that, but there's bigger politics when there's more money involved.
Wow.
100%.
And
Wow.
so where FAMU is, people are going to support and they want us to be successful and win. I'm all for that. Uh, but there's an element of building there. And so being able to make an impact on the young man and building something special to me was intriguing. And I didn't have to move to do it. And it gives me a chance to be in college, where I've coached in the pros and I've coached in high school. And now this gives me an opportunity to coach in college.
Right. Also give you an opportunity to be a legend on one side of the tracks and now the other side of the tracks too. So
I like that. I received that.
yes,
I
sir.
received that prophecy.
Yes, sir.
And I definitely know what you're talking about allowing them to let you build, man. That was a great way to say that without saying that was a real smart guy. But yeah,
Hey,
that's so
earn.
that's it, Mr. Ward, man. Great. Thank you for coming on the show, spending time with us, man. We're gonna get you up out of here. But I got
You
one
gotta ask
before.
that last one,
Yeah, for
Ern.
sure. Hey, but this is a tradition we have on the sit down. I asked this last question to our guests before we let them go. So, we're not going to stop tradition. We'll keep it going with you. So, all the people who do you think will be a great guest to have on our show?
Uh, Probably Allen Houston. If I had, he's my good friend, and so Allen Houston would be a good person to reach out to.
For
He's a
sure.
he,
Like I said, we
you
need a
know
little bit of help. I ain't Charlie Ward. I ain't got that kind of pull, man. I ain't got that
I,
kind of pull. I'm gonna need some help. But we
I
can
will
talk
see
about that.
I'll see what we can do.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, man. So yeah.
Appreciate you having me.
But again, thank you, Mr. Ward, for coming on here, man. We're praying for your success with the Rattlers, man. Hey, so that's it.
All
Yes.
right, I appreciate you guys.
Big
All
year.
right.
Enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on.